Hi everybody, welcome back to A Better Computer. My name is Matt, and today's video is about one thing and one thing only, and it is a feature request for podcast makers everywhere. So on the iOS side of the world, there are lots of great podcast apps you can choose from. Some of the big ones include Apple's own podcast app, Overcast, Castro, Pocket Casts. All of these apps are really good for different people, but there's one specific feature that only a couple of them have, and I would really like the other developers to get on board with this seemingly simple thing. I know it's dangerous to say this is a simple feature, it should be easy to implement. I'm a product designer, I understand that that's not always the case, but in concept, it's a really straightforward thing that is super useful, and I'll show you the use case right now. So here I am in Overcast. I'm looking at the most recent episode of Frame Trap. This is a podcast on Easy Allies, and I want to look through the show notes to see kind of what they're talking about. This is a long podcast, so I don't always listen to every segment. And so when I go over to the show notes, I can see, oh, okay, here's all the things they're talking about. They have nice little timestamps throughout the episode, and I can tap on any of those to go to that point in the episode. So a lot of podcasters will post their episodes to YouTube as well, and in some cases, YouTube is the primary place people listen to them, and that might be the primary place they publish to. And so the way YouTube does chapters is you have to put timestamps in your show notes. And so they'll take that, they'll put the show notes in there, they'll have chapters on YouTube, it works great, and then they need to publish to the RSS feed for audio, and they'll publish there and they'll just copy paste the notes. Apps like Overcast and Pocket Casts will see those timestamps in the show notes and turn them into tappable links, and you can tap them to go anywhere in the episode that is indicated, and it works really well. I would prefer, of course, for these shows to adopt actual chapters that work with audio and that podcast players recognize, but if they're not going to do it, it's a nice feature that these podcast apps provide, Overcast and Pocket Cast specifically, and I'm sure there's other ones, that let you just go to that point in the audio as well. And it's a nice kind of compromise between actual chapters and just having to scrub and figure out in a 3-hour episode where you end the playhead. That's a pain. So I'm asking all podcast app creators today to please implement this feature because it is so useful, it's so nice to have, and honestly, for some people who listen to lots of shows, and most shows still don't use regular chapters, having things like this make navigating episodes easier. So specifically, Apple Podcasts, Castro, please add this feature because it is super useful. I'll show you kind of on screen right now what happens in those, and it's basically what you would expect. It's just text, it shows you the timestamp, and you have to scrub to it yourself. It's not ideal, but I think that this is the reality of how podcasts are published, how show notes are created, and it makes the experience better for end users if this feature is there. So I love that Overcast has it. I love that Pocket Cast has it. I use it all the time in those. I'm showing you one podcast now, but there's numerous shows that do this. It would be really great to see it across the board as a normal feature in podcast apps. So that's it. That's my one feature request for all podcast apps that don't have it already. Shout out to Overcast for having it already. Shout out to Pocket Cast for having it. But all the other big players out there, iOS, Android, everyone I didn't mention, this should be in there all the time because tons of shows get published like this. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you here next time. Bye-bye.